Hey guys, welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds. I'm Ted, and today I'm hanging out with
Dave.
And today we're going to ask, what does your race say about you? And we're talking half-orc.
Jump down in the description below where you can find Nerdarchy, the newsletter. Learn how to game with Nerdarchy as well as gain weekly gaming tips.
So half-orcs, they almost always come into play, or mostly due to questionable factors. And that's going to seriously inspire or seriously dictate what kind of future those kind of people have.
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of the cool thing about those types of characters. You're living between two worlds. Like,
Yes.
you're probably not going to find acceptance among humans, and you're not going to find acceptance among orcs. So it's like, what do you have to do to really stand out? Well, amongst orcs, you probably have to be super cunning and even more savage and brutal than your kinsfolk.
You have to pick a side and go above and beyond the call of duty. And if you want to try and live with orcs, as Dave just said, you've got to be more brutal. You've got to be more cunning. You have to be willing to go to some serious extremes. If you want to try and live with humans, you have got to resist all of those primal urges within yourself to prove that you are civilized and that you can be trusted and that you can be there.
Yeah, I feel like as a player character playing a half-orc, you're probably trying to, more than anything, you're trying to find your way in the world and prove yourself to whichever faction it is that you actually care about.
Right.
And, suppose it's even worse and you, by some, twist of fate, you care about both, and it's even going to be even worse. So like, as a player, as a character, do you rise up to the challenge and like kind of embrace who you are and what you are, or do you kind of get bitter and rally against both races?
And in some ways, being a player character half-orc can make it even more challenging, because let's face it, if you're a player character, chances are more than likely that you're trying to prove that you can be human, or that you can be with the humans. But by going and doing adventuring, you're getting into combat, you're doing fights, you're, for the most part, probably being some kind of warrior-esque thing.
Accumulating more scars.
So, like, this is not going to convince them that you're civil. So, yes, you might be doing something that's helpful, but are you giving into your orcish side to get there? So, like, depending upon how much you want to really get into that role-playing challenge and how much your DM is willing to work with you, like, you could be struggling for your entire adventuring career to prove that, no, you really are this or you really are that.
Well, and here's the other thing, too. You're trying to fit in amongst the misfits, really. Like, if you think about it, because being an adventurer isn't really like a normal occupation.
Yeah.
I feel like when a adventuring party rolls into town, there's like one of two kind of like receptions they get. And one is like, we don't want your kind here. And it's even worse if you're like a half-orc or something weird. A tiefling, dragonborn, like, you're practically a monster coming into the village. Or, or maybe there's like fanboys that are like, oh my god, I want to be just like you.
Now as you say it, I want to run a game where, like, only the monstrous races are allowed to be played. I think it'd be awesome.
Oh yeah, well, I'm sure we've done it at some point or another, whether it was intentional or not.
Right.
But yeah, so you're gonna always have to fight against these stereotypes or embrace them, really, and generally most stereotypes come from somewheres. So as a player, you can find it. And, like, let's face it, how many players when they play a half-orc, what do they generally play?
Fighters, barbarians.
They just play barbarians. That's it. I mean, come on, they get the extra crit damage, they get the stand back up thing. It's their thing. It stacks nicely with barbarian. Strength and con.
I don't know. There's the picture of that half-orc paladin.
It's a lie. It's propaganda. It was propaganda.
I don't know. I think
it was very much like Captain America in the movie, right? When they made him like sell the war bonds. That's exactly what's going on.
Wow.
All the other half-orc barbarians are laughing at him.
He's a paladin.
So Yeah, so there's a lot of challenges in playing a half-orc. You know, do you play him bestial? Do you play him civilized? You know, were you raised by orcs? Were you raised by humans? Were you raised by a different race? Because neither of them would have you.
Half-orc ranger, totally take the raised by animals.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've played that character. I think I played a druid though.
Ah, okay.
And because his third edition, they could use summon nature's ally instead of spells when they sack their spells.
That's
like
right.
for healing. So it was totally it was a somatic and verbal components for calling animals.
I remember that guy.
So yeah, you know, I actually missed the beast caller druid.
Right.
We might have to make that archetype up.
That's not a bad idea.
Something for Patreon, maybe.
Cool. So I like half-orcs. I like that diverse challenge. I like playing characters that just being in town can have some issues, because it opens up for some nice role-playing situations when the combat isn't right there, or it forces into those type of role-playing situations.
I kind of think like he's human. He's not a half-orc, but like I kind of like, if I was like to model a character, I look at I believe it was Garn from the Last of the Renshide series, who was actually a slave gladiator.
Yep.
And you know, I could definitely see that personality of you know, really just trying to prove yourself of being better and worthwhile,
Right.
And more than just an animal that was bred to fight.
Right.
You know, that whole journey as a half-orc is probably the fun. Or you know, you could go the other way too, like you said, playing against type with a paladin, or you know, something more cerebral like a wizard or a spellcaster.
You know, you could even wind up going with priest and show a dedication to a particular cause that might make it more receptive. And when push comes to shove, you can certainly fight and defend those people that need your aid.
Yeah, well, that's absolutely true. And from a mechanical standpoint, like having, what do they get, a +2 strength, +1 the con?
Yes.
Yeah, I like playing against type with those type of characters, because you like your dump stat becomes like average. You know, you're a weakling among your people, but you're average.
But
with everybody else.
You could be the type of cleric, like even if you aren't doing a war cleric, you could put a good stat. Put your high stat, your 15 in wisdom, and put, say, like your 12 or 14 into strength, so that you've got the ability to.
You still have physical.
You still have the physical, and you can be able to fight in combat, and then at the end be able to heal whoever needs it, because you're not using your spells for combat. So I think that is a very mechanically useful character. It's not prime statted,
no,
but it's still incredibly useful.
And you know, it may be a really, that would define your character much different. You know, you're strong and able to defend the weak, but at the same time, you also have you're compassionate and have a kindness, and you want to nurture and help those that are in need. So you know, so it would definitely be against type for the half-orc. And again, too, like everyone also has the stories of, you know, like the half-orc bard, where, you know, he uses the guitar as an alkabong, or, you know, the half-orc wizard, where his spells are things like he's beating people with the book, or throwing things at them. There's plenty of like comical stuff like that as well.
Wasn't there someone who played a half-orc fighter, but he claimed to be a wizard?
Yeah, there's plenty of those stories. So, you know, the question is, how do you guys play your half-orcs in your games? What are you guys doing? Do you go with the stereotype? Do you play against type? What defines a half-orc in your world? Let us know in the comments below. While you're at it, like, share, and subscribe.
You can get some Nerdarchy swag over at nerdarchy.com.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.